make anything.
No, they have to.
No.
That'd be a good talker if we were still on the radio, huh?
Hey, resolutions, call me now. What your girlfriend up to?
Kenny alerted me to a podcast hosted by David Spade and Dana Carvey.
Mm-hmm. Let's give credit to GLer Shannon, who alerted me to it. So thank you, Shannon.
And by the way, that's a podcast I'd never watch or listen to.
I
They
think
don't
it's
do it
pretty
very
funny.
well.
Spade
You know,
has
it
his
just
moments.
goes to show you there's a million of these things.
There's a cat podcast out in. Where's that?
But did you look at their numbers?
I'm sure they're doing well. They're two famous names in comedy, and
Doing quite
Carvey's having his career resurrected by doing Biden on SNL. So it doesn't surprise me that people listen to them. But I thought technically they do a very clumsy job trying to do a podcast.
Yeah. well,
Which is neither here nor there.
So I could work there?
Yes.
Okay.
The thing with podcasts, what I've learned is there's no wrong way to do it. Or if you prefer, there's no right way to do it. That might be
That's a better way to put it.
Yeah.
Kenny.
They had as a guest a guy named Steven Greer, Greer. And I've heard Steven Greer on different platforms a number of times. He's become, I would say, the podcast world's go-to guy for an explanation for what's happening in the skies.
So he's Seth Bornstein.
No.
The Always Available? Is that what you're trying to say?
Well,
There's-
he's kind of, yeah. But he strikes me as the yo-yo guy. You know, the guy that got on TV all the time with. He apparently had a resume credible enough to get him in the door of these morning TV shows at various local channels, and then only to discover he really couldn't deliver. Now this guy, that's the yo-yo guy. In fact, thank you, Chris. In fact, I believe Greer was on with Rogan, although I looked at that, and I believe those podcasts, I could be wrong, are not available. Is that
No,
correct?
they're there. You can find.
Okay, you can find them.
Oh, wait a minute. No, you're right. Because I clicked on it. I clicked on play, and nothing played.
Did you do it on YouTube, Ken?
No.
I'm just guessing that maybe they're not available, and I'm just guessing because Rogan's people probably said let's not replay this. Now, by that I mean Greer is he's about 70 years old. He's a doctor, a medical doctor. He's retired from the medical profession. He's now a ufologist as a UFO studier, and he's an interesting guy. And I've heard him say the same things, though, over and over. He's founded the Center for the Study of Extraterrestrial Intelligence. He founded that in 1990. He's into it. He's very attracted to what's happening. And but I found myself today listening to him for about, I don't know, almost 30, 40 minutes. And he tends to say the same things I've heard him say on other shows. He always knows people that have at least 6 PhDs. He's visited black sites. He's been taken up in a helicopter and visited black sites, and he always is predicting that within 30 days a whistleblower is going to come forward from the military-industrial complex to blow open what's happening, and that's where I developed
Is he a one-trick pony?
So I don't want to have him on because what point would there be in confronting him with that?
Because he uses words like black ops, covert rogue, military corporation, operation in regards to what we've been seeing over the skies in the eastern United States.
If I could summarize, and please help me if I'm wrong, because we're all familiar with this guy. If I could summarize what I think he is claiming, it would be that what we're seeing is technology produced by humans, most principally us.
Right.
And that it is and it's flourishing now as a design to frighten people. Let me stop right there. I don't think it is frightening anybody. to frighten people for purposes of making people malleable enough to allow themselves to be guided by a different form of government in which our freedoms would be retired. That's as close as I can come to.
I don't even have to read my notes to you. You just nailed it. Yep.
And so this is what I'm supposed to anticipate, that this is our technology, and because of its seemingly mysterious nature, unleashed by a military, industrial, corporate, deep black underground. They have mountain caves where they do their dastardly evil experiments. We're going to surrender. We're going to finally apparently put up enough with the hysteria and surrender to this group, which may or may not present itself to the public for purposes of alleviating the public's concern. The big hole in this so far is they're not frightening anything. They're not frightening anybody.
That's the problem.
They're people are amused. They continue to take videos night after night after night. The videos are coming from all corners of the world. Again, if I discount 75% of them as headlight glare on a window, that leaves 25% that are extraordinarily intriguing and fascinating and a real ode to what our deepest thinkers and technicians have been able to create. And if they're creating it for the purpose of bringing about this fantastical new world order in which we'll be safe from these things, and we're going to get frightened enough to accept that kind of help, boy, I'm not sold on that yet. I never will allow myself to be sold on that because I don't intend to surrender my freedom, which is easy for me to say because I'm old enough to break glass and smoke Luckies.
Let me read stuff that basically my notes, his words and quotes here, and it echoes what you just said. These are being put in the air to create panic and distrust with the government. He also said they're hoaxing an alien threat to consolidate a totalitarian power around the world. That's also what he said. What I found was really interesting, and I had to stop it and back it up a number of times. In 1974, the old Nazi, Werner von Braun, you guys know him, right?
Sure. Yep.
He said, before he died, that this man-made alien technology will be used to incite global fear and allow the creation of a new world government. He said that in 74 before he passed.
Well, a couple of things. One, as we've said, they're not terrifying anybody. Unfortunately, if let's say this fantastical notion by Greer comes to fruition, would that mean that this same technology will be used to begin killing people? In other words, what's going to motivate the hysteria?
As far as the technology itself, he said the technology that we're seeing is so far ahead of where the rest of the world is now that the rest of the world is still in the smoke signals stage. This is so far out in front of where we are.
And I don't doubt that. I believe that we have people who survived the failed academy and came out the other end as brilliant technicians and scientists.
They're recruiting them right out of high school, putting them through college, and grooming them to do this work.
And they're good at it, and they've made these really neat things that we go outside in their backyard and film and say, what's that?
But he is saying that everything we've done has been based on alien technology that we have. What's it called when you reconstruct something that's been destroyed?
Reverse engineering.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's all been reverse engineered. Yep.
Well, but the other, where Greer helps me lose him, I don't need a lot of help. I lose him easily. Where I begin to wonder is he also claims that much of this are aliens.
Right.
That we're being visited.
What is that?
Well, which is it, Stephen? Is it a corporate, is this U.S. Bank and the Skunk Works at Lockheed Martin, or is this little green people from
It's
Pluto.
all of the above, according to him. I'll tell you where he lost me, and it was deep, deep in the interview, almost at the end. John, I'm hoping this will bring me back in good stead with you. He said this technology and what it's going to be used for is, and I'm paraphrasing here now because I didn't write it down, is why Kennedy was killed. And much like John Heidt, that's where I put the brakes on and said, "Okay, buddy, I got to go to the bathroom and work some things out there, fella."
Well,
Okay.
the other thing to consider is if Greer was this knowledgeable, he was this much on the inside, and yet he is making himself so available to publicly sound the clarion call. Why is he Why is he alive?
Okay, that's another point. I'm glad you brought that up. These whistleblowers are afraid for their lives.
Well, any
their
day
lives
now,
have been
Kenny,
threatened.
we're going to have he said within 30 days we're going to have a whistleblower.
If
he
he
said
lives,
that last year, I think.
Joe, if he lives that long, their lives are in danger, including his. He was just recently in a crash that was a threat on his life.
Yep.
So anything that happens to this guy, if he accidentally walks into the trailer hitch in the back of his car, that's a conspiracy to kill him from the CIA. Yeah.
He's from Charlotte, North Carolina, as I say, a retired physician. He's a transcendental meditation teacher, which I find amusing because he seems like a type A guy to me. He's a fast talker, and he
What does that mean? What is that?
he
help
just
you fall
teaches
asleep or
he
something?
teaches meditation. That deal.
Can you run that by me again? Got it.
Don't
Joe,
you need a pass? What's not a password, but you need the word. You know.
Safe word?
No,
code word?
No.
It's like a chant word.
You need your own. You know.
Yeah.
Chris Kraft.
The only
Know your word.
from everything I've heard from you, the only place that I differ with you is I would absolutely have this guy on the whole 90 minutes. I would
Okay.
have him on.
I'll
I
call
love
him.
this kind
I'll
of
get
stuff. Don't do it just to amuse me, you know. But yeah, I love stuff like this, and I'm willing to talk to nut jobs.
Now let's place this conversation in the context of him possibly being correct. All right. I have said, without knowing obviously as much as Greer does, I have said something's going to happen, and by that, first of all, I can't identify something, but by that I mean it strikes me as plausible that there's an end game to this now 2-month frenzy of sightings of things.
I'm so glad you're going this way. Yeah.
They're every night to the point where they've wearied many people who were perfectly willing to think something was going to happen, and now they're not. I still think something is going to happen because what I think is, what's the point of all this? Because all of this isn't scaring anybody. And pilots who talk about it in the cockpit, you know, chattering
we
back to
saw
the
it.
tower, they're cool like pilots always are, you know, and the pilot in the tower says, "Oh, my goodness, I wonder what that is." And the pilots sign off, Roger. No one's freaked out. No one is panicked. No one is hysterical. So that leads me to believe that in order for something to happen, and if something to happen has to be cataclysmic, to the point of driving the public into hysteria, which, given the nature of what's happened to the human race, you would think that wouldn't be that difficult, right? Yep. We're hardly the rugged individualists we used to be, so it strikes me that they whoever wants to frighten people could really frighten the hell out of people if they wanted to. So far, they haven't. So what's the point? What's the point of this?
What have I been saying for a couple of years now? Get them asking the wrong questions. I believe everything we've been seeing, no, I shouldn't say I believe. One of the possibilities, I think, is all the experts we've seen. We talked about David Grouch, Steven Greer, Bob Lazar, Luis Elizondo. All of them are a false flag and stagecraft in order to get us asking and believing the wrong thing while nefarious things are happening right under our nose.
So they're part of the dark cabal.
All of them are. Yeah, even though they say they're working against the government and they're trying to, they're fighting for us, the American people. B as in B, S as in S.
Well, you bring up another interesting point. Compounding this is the quite literal fact that the United States does not have an acting president.
It's true.
Yeah.
We
Don't forget about that.
And that's not being facetious. This poor riddled fellow is now on another vacation.
He's got porridge on his chin.
Well, he's got time to burn.
Well, he's not doing anything.
It's use it or lose it. It's the end of the year.
He's offered nothing to the public. He's incapable of speaking clearly about anything, much less this. And Obama, who has been shamed now as a complete failure for blowing the Harris campaign, no one's gonna trust him. He's been the guy, in my estimation, he's been the guy running the show for 4 years, and my distaste for him has just grown tremendously. We don't have a government. We don't have a president. We don't have a rock-ribbed leader of the nation who we all trust to sit in front of the fireplace in the White House and tell us what's going on. We don't have that.
What do we?
Which might be factored in to why this is happening now.
Oh, I like that.
Okay, there's no one to counter this.
Yeah.
Isn't that essentially, though, what we said last week?
John-Claude Kelly can't handle this.
No, she's going to be locked up after this.
From what I remember from the interview, almost nobody in Congress and the government has been updated or brought in on this. There was an interesting part towards the end of the interview about Barry Goldwater and how Barry Goldwater in the early 60s tried to find out what the hell was going on and was essentially told, stop asking those questions. If you ever ask those questions again, your career is over. You're done for. And
Okay.
it scared him so much that he never did.
Okay, another point. I am perfectly willing to believe that whatever these vehicles are they've been around a long time.
Yeah.
I'm perfectly willing to believe that.
Sure.
What do you mean by a long time?
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. What do you mean by a long time?
40s?
Well, I would say 75 to 80 years. But then if I want to go alien nation, maybe 10,000 years.
Sure.
I mean, I could go so many directions here. Let me stick to my thought, and I'm trying to remember what it is. If we are to accept these things have been around for 75 years, and I do accept that, maybe do it a reverse engineering in secret sites. Again, you're left with this urgent question. Okay, what's going on right now? Why now the flourishing of these things that everyone can see? John, it's time for you to poo-poo everything we said so far.
Everything that has been said on this show today,
Yeah.
these theories have been around for 50 years since UFOs first became, quote, popular.
Right.
So, I mean, it's nothing new.
Okay, then why now, though, with this
Yeah.
influx of them?
I want to know
there's-
your
but
gut
there-
feeling,
there-
John, because you're not down with conspiracies.
There's been different eras where there have been a glut of, these things. The 60s were famous for them. I mean, for, it happening for months at a time in certain areas of the U.S.
Well, then are we back to we didn't know about it because there wasn't social media?
I hadn't thought about that. That might be.
No, we're aware of it more because more people have physically seen it.
I'm a child of the 60s. I do not recall anything like this.
I was fascinated by this for years. So I read all the books. I read the Project Blue Book books and all the books about UFOs. So historically speaking, I don't see anything really a lot different, except that now we have all this video of it. Now we don't have just eyewitness reports, which is what used to happen.
It is the ultimate GL spin on it, though. The 48-hour rule. Those things have been up there forever.
Yeah,
John,
it is the ultimate 48-hour rule.
your feelings, how do you feel about it, though, yourself? Are you buying it?
Well, I don't think it's aliens, and I don't think it's some grand conspiracy. I do think it's government related, shall we say, in that I think
Wait, what's the words again, Such? Covert rogue military corporate operation.
Yeah, I think they're just testing stuff, et cetera, et cetera.
For what purpose?
Well, just to the same way they
To
tested
use in warfare?
Yeah, the same way they tested stealth bombers. Excuse me.
Boy, you went
that
to your
sort of
old
thing.
bomb there.
Bombs.
You went to the old boom.
I hope they don't throw bombs at us. But yeah, that's my thought. And again, I'm probably the one guy, like you said, people aren't getting excited. I'm not really getting excited.
Do you
Well,
think
John, I'm not either, but I'm fascinated by why now.
Yeah,
Putin?
I don't see any. Well, grand conspiracy, I guess, is the way I see it.
Joe? Putin.
And China.
And China.
And China, yeah.
China has the technology.
But Putin and China aren't dumb enough to buy this if they're not buying it in trailer courts in New Jersey, right?
If this was Putin,
No. They're trying to scare Putin and China.
I don't think
Not possible.
they being our corporate entity, industrial,
Yeah,
military,
yeah.
rogue, black